Welcome, listeners, to Tales, a podcast that brings your short stories to life through narrations, sound effects, and more. These stories will be brought to you by different authors with different writing styles, but with the same spooky vibes. So, lock your doors, check your closets, make certain there's nothing lurking under your bed, and enjoy.
And thereby hangs a tale.
The snow had been falling for hours. Not the kind that danced gracefully through the air. This snow was thick, fast, and mean. It buried everything in its path, stripped visibility to a few feet, and turned the two-lane mountain road into a suggestion more than a guarantee. Vera Blackmore tightened her grip on the wheel, eyes sharp even as the lines vanished beneath slush. Her windshield wipers beat in stubborn rhythm, but the snow was winning. She'd been running too hard for too long. What she really wanted was something quiet. Snow, wilderness, stillness, a place to disappear for a while. Relax. The word felt foreign, even in her own head. But she knew she needed it. She hadn't checked the forecast, hadn't cared. The snow she'd been craving was now piling up faster than she expected, and it was less serene and more suffocating. By the time the road narrowed and the sky turned white, the exhaustion had already set in. A dull throb behind her eyes, a tension coiled tight across her shoulders. She was pushing it. She needed rest, and soon. A sign flickered into view through the storm. Exit 244 Service Road, Hilton Garden Inn, 1.5 miles. She didn't think. She took the exit. The road to the hotel was quiet, lined with trees bent under the weight of snow. Her truck crunched into the nearly untouched lot. Maybe 3 other cars parked near the entrance, 2 half buried in white. Vera cut the engine and listened to the silence. It wasn't peaceful, not really. It felt like something was listening for movement under the howl of the wind. She stepped out, boots hitting the snow with a thud, and pulling her coat tighter. The building was modern, warm light spilling from the tall windows, lobby glowing gold and beige behind sliding doors. The moment she stepped inside, the warmth hit her like a wave, heat and the faint smell of coffee and lemons. The lobby was pristine, empty, echoing in the way hotels only do when no one's really living in them. At the front desk, a woman looked up from a computer. Her name tag read Harper. She was maybe early 30s, dark long hair pulled into a loose bun, and a too bright smile that didn't quite mask the tension in her shoulders.
Evening. You're lucky you made it. We've got a big storm coming in. They're calling for a whiteout until morning, maybe even longer.
I figured, Vera said, brushing snow from her jacket. I didn't see any cars for miles.
Most folks know not to travel today, but we've still got power, and we're stocked up. Might be a while before the plows get to the roads again, but if you're staying, it could be a few days.
I've had worse. Vera slid her ID and card across the desk. Harper glanced at the ID.
Blackmore? Nice name. Sounds like a detective or a bounty hunter or something.
Vera gave a faint smile. Or something. Harper typed a few things, slid a key card across the counter.
Room 319. Elevators down the hall. We've got heat, water, and a generator. If the power dies, there's a cafe on the first floor. Open till 10 if you're hungry.
Vera nodded. Anyone else here? Harper hesitated for just a second.
Just a few. Most folks are holed up in their room. A couple who checked in last night, and an older guy on the second floor. It's quiet, safer that way.
Safer? Vera didn't ask. Not yet. Upstairs, room 319 was clean and plain. Beige walls, floral art, bed made tight. Vera dropped her duffel bag beside the dresser and sat on the edge of the bed. The silence was thick. Her phone buzzed once, barely any signal. No bars, no updates. Outside, the wind howled louder. Downstairs, Harper watched the storm through the lobby glass, arms crossed tight over her chest. She hadn't told Vera everything. The truth was, one of the guests wasn't accounted for anymore. The couple who checked in last night, the husband came down alone this morning, said his wife went for a walk. No one had seen her since, and the tracks outside were gone, buried too fast, like she'd never even been here at all. The storm didn't stop, but a third day, the snow outside had eaten the parking lot whole. The plows hadn't come, neither had the supply truck. Not that anyone said much. The hotel guests mostly stayed in their rooms, and Vera could feel their silence like fog in the hallways. She moved quietly, kept to herself. Her room was warm enough, and she didn't mind the isolation. But the unease was growing, and the power? It flickered twice that morning, once long enough for her to light a candle. The backup generator kicked in, humming through the walls like a tired heartbeat. Vera sat in the dark and listened to its drain. That's when she went downstairs. Harper was at the front desk, sleeves rolled up, flipping through what looked like an inventory binder. Her hair was messier than usual, eyes tired but alert. Still no trucks, I see, Vera said. Harper shook her head.
Radio said the roads are buried past the county line. No ETA on clearing them.
And the guest?
Getting twitchy? One woman tried to walk into town. We found her half a mile down the road, frozen and talking to herself.
Well, any other bright ideas? Harper looked up at her.
Yeah, but you're not gonna like it.
10 minutes later, they were in the maintenance hallway. Harper unlocked a side door with a key from around her neck, revealing a narrow storage closet. She reached behind a shelf and pulled out a black case. Inside were maps and 2 hotel-marked snowmobiles. What's this? Vera asked.
Emergency escape plan for staff only.
Harper spread one of the maps on the crate.
There's a stock site about 10 miles north, a private storage bunker that the hotel chain keeps just in case of long-term shutdowns. There's canned food, medical supplies, battery chargers, and an old diesel generator. We were trained to go there if we lost contact or ran out of food.
And you were planning on going alone? Harper didn't answer immediately.
I've made the trip once during orientation, but not in this kind of snow.
Vera folded her arms. Well, lucky for you, I am here, 'cause you're not going alone. They spent the next few hours packing gear, ration kits, blankets, gloves, thermals, fuel, and flare guns. Vera insisted on bringing her own weapons just in case. She didn't say why, and Harper didn't ask. At dusk, Vera found Harper in the employee lounge watching the snow pile against the glass.
Before we go, there's something else.
Vera raised an eyebrow. Now's the time.
I didn't mention this before, but the day or two before you checked in, the wife of the couple on the second floor went out for a walk. She never came back.
Harper kept her eyes on the snow beyond the window.
We looked, but by the time her husband realized she was gone, the snow had already wiped out her tracks, like she was never there. I don't know if she got lost and froze or if something took her.
Jesus, wait, did you call the cops?
No signal. And when I called the landline the first night, the local station never picked up. I tried again yesterday, but I got the same result.
Vera was quiet for a moment. So, you think there's something out there, like a wild animal?
I think something's wrong. I think it's been wrong for a long time.
Before they left, Harper gathered the guests in the lobby. She didn't say much, just that the supplies were low and she and Vera were going out to restock. A 2-day round trip, weather permitting. She insisted that the guests remain calm, stay indoors, and not to wander out. Most nodded, but some looked pale. Vera noticed the older man on the second floor was missing, but no one seemed to question it. They left just before dawn. The sky was heavy with gray wind scraping snow across the ground in long, sharp streaks. The snowmobile growled to life, headlights cutting twin beams through the fog. Vera followed Harper's lead. The machines vibrated and steadied beneath her hands as they cut a path into the trees beyond the hotel. The world vanished behind them quickly. 6 miles in, they stopped for water and a quick check-in. Vera knelt near a tree line watching the treetops shift. The wind continued to sing its whistling tune and the forest felt like it was breathing around them. She stood up and looked into the forest, and for a moment, she saw it. Between two tree trunks, half-rotted in snowfall, a tall figure, emaciated, skin pale and stretched, bones sharp, limbs too long, eyes like burned out coals. Just watching. She blinked. Gone.
Everything okay?
Harper asked, pulling her scarf down. Yeah, I just thought I saw something. Vera knew exactly what she saw. It wasn't a trick of the snow, and it damn sure wasn't an animal. But she also knew better than to call it what it might be. Not yet. Not without proof. So, she said nothing. She didn't want to spook Harper, not while they were still miles out and the light was fading. Whatever it wasn't natural. But it was watching, and it was close. Harper didn't press. She mounted up again and rode until the light started to fade. They'd camped in an old ranger outpost along the way. Harper said it was stocked with firewood and an old stove. They had to get there before nightfall. They reached the ranger outpost just before nightfall. The snow had let up some, but the sky still hung low, like it hadn't made up its mind about staying clear. The cabin was barely more than a single-room shelter, a squat, weather-beaten thing tucked against a cluster of trees. It smelled like old ash, oil, and wood rot, but it would hold. Harper got to work immediately, crouching near the stove with a box of firewood pulled from a bin. Vera dropped her gear by the wall but didn't settle. Not yet. That thing she'd seen, whatever it was, had stirred something in her gut that hadn't eased since. She stepped back outside. The cold slapped her cheeks raw, but she didn't care. She scanned the tree line, boots crunching softly in the fresh powder. That uneasy feeling was still pressing against her ribs. Something wasn't right. Tracks, near the edge of the outpost clearing. She crouched low. They weren't fresh, maybe an hour old, but clear enough. Two-toed, maybe elk, maybe deer? Common enough in this part of Colorado. She stood up, eyes sweeping the trees again, then turned back towards the cabin. Inside, the fire was already crackling. The heat was thin but welcome. Harper sat cross-legged near it, warming her hands. Vera shut the door behind her and took a seat, rubbing warmth back into her fingers.
Everything okay out there?
Nothing moving, just, quiet.
So, what's your story exactly?
Vera glanced at her. What do you mean, story?
I mean, you're armed, calm, and volunteered to drive a snowmobile into a storm. You're not just some stranded traveler.
Oh, let's just say I've had practice with bad situations.
Well, I was supposed to transfer out of that hotel 2 months ago, but I got passed over again. Maybe it's for the best. If I wasn't here, who knows who'd be handling this mess.
The fire popped again. The walls creaked. Then, thud. Something hit the outside wall. Both women froze. Vera was on her feet in an instant, drawing her pistol. She moved like she'd done it 1,000 times. No wasted motion, no noise. She reached into her coat and pulled out a second handgun, handed it to Harper without a word. Harper took it, confused.
You think it's a what? A coyote?
Maybe. Just stay quiet. They waited. 1 minute. 2. Nothing. Vera crept to the window and peered through the frost-laced glass. Blackness. The fire's glow inside made it impossible to see much beyond a few feet. Shadows danced, but nothing moved. 5 minutes passed. Still nothing. Harper slowly lowered the pistol.
You really think it was just a wild animal?
Vera said nothing, holstering her weapon again. Harper sat down, the tension still high on her shoulders.
You're jumpy.
Yeah, storms unpredictable, so are animals. Harper nodded, unconvinced, but she didn't push. That night, Vera didn't sleep more than 2 hours at a time. She took shifts on her own, waking up and moving quietly so she did not wake up Harper. The fire kept burning low, the wind howled off and on, but nothing came back. Morning came with a pale sun behind heavy clouds. Vera stepped outside again, instinct leading her straight to the tree line which she'd seen the earlier prints. New prints, deeper, sharper and larger, and fresh. The snow was still falling and these hadn't been covered, which meant whatever had left them had been here recently. Vera stared at the tracks. Humanoid, long-footed, toes curled unnaturally inward. She felt her stomach turn, not in fear, but in recognition. She turned around and moved quickly back inside. "Harper," Vera said, shaking her shoulder. "Wake up. We're leaving now." Harper blinked up at her.
What's going on?
"Just pack your gear. I'll load the snowmobiles. We move in 10. Harper groaned, still sluggish from sleep, but something in Vera's voice pulled her upright. She didn't ask questions. She packed. 15 minutes later, they were back on the trail and the outpost a dot behind them. They reached the supply bunker by late morning. It was hidden behind a ridge and half buried under snow but still standing. A corrugated steel structure with a heavy-duty padlock. Harper unlocked it and the door creaked open to reveal rows of crates, sealed boxes, and oil drums. It smelled of dust and plastic and old concrete. They stepped inside, and for the first time in days, it felt like a relief. Harper turned to Vera.
Okay, no more dodging. What's going on with you? You're acting like something's following us.
Vera paused at one of the crates, slowly turning towards her. Because something is. Harper leaned against a supply crate, arms crossed.
All right, you've been watching shadows since the outpost. What do you think is following us, Vera?
Vera didn't answer right away. She was scanning the far wall, double-checking the crates like it helped her think. Finally, she turned to Harper. "You're not going to believe this, but I think we're being followed by a Wendigo." Harper blinked at her. Then, she let out a small, sharp laugh.
A Wendigo. Are you serious?
Vera didn't flinch. Harper stared at her like she was trying to decide whether this was a joke. "Yeah, I'm serious as a heart attack. I usually don't joke about things with claws and teeth, Harper." Harper's face shifted. Not scared, not yet, but unsure. Her brow furrowed.
I mean, I know the stories. My grandfather used to talk about them. Said that they were born when someone gave in to hunger in the worst way, cannibalism and desperation. That it was a twisted soul frozen in place, turning people into things that could never be full again.
Vera watched carefully. Harper continued, voice low now.
He said the Wendigo's body would grow with its hunger. Its skin stretches, bones snap, the eyes rot. But the worst part is, if you kill one, the soul doesn't die. It lingers and waits for the next hollow person to crawl into.
Silence fell. Vera was still staring.
What? I grew up in the mountains of Colorado. You really think I wouldn't know that kind of lore? But technically, Wendigos are more Atlantic, up north, not really central to the US. But the native tribes did stretch across the entire country, so who knows? I guess it's not entirely impossible that they'd show up here too.
No, I'm just surprised that you know this much information about them.
It's just a story, a tribal warning, something to keep kids from wandering off and starving in the woods. I mean, it's not real.
Well, that's the first thing you said that was untrue, because they are real. Harper met her gaze and saw nothing but conviction there.
You've seen one?
More than once.
Jesus.
Look, I don't need you to believe it. I just need you to humor me. Harper hesitated. Whatever you think is out there, it's tracking us. And if I'm right, we're already out of time. We need to get back to the hotel now. They continued packing up the supplies for the hotel. Vera froze. It was faint, but she still heard it. Her name. Vera. She straightened up slowly, eyes sweeping the dim interior of the bunker. Nothing but shelves, crates, and shadows. No one else, not a soul. Harper caught the change in her posture.
What is it?
Vera didn't answer right away. She was still scanning, senses stretched thin.
Vera?
Harper pressed a little sharper this time. I heard my name, Vera said quietly. Harper paused.
From where?
I don't know, but it was just a voice and it definitely wasn't yours.
Okay. So now the wind's talking to you?
Vera didn't reply, her expression still locked somewhere between focus and unease.
Right. Yeah, okay. Totally normal.
Vera didn't laugh. She didn't blink. Harper's smirk faded just a little. Vera stood still, eyes narrowed towards the far end of the bunker. Harper opened her mouth to say something else, maybe another sarcastic jab, but then she heard it.
Harper.
She froze. That voice.
Harper, it's me.
Her grandfather. It wasn't just similar, it was him. That low, gravel, smooth tone, warm and calm. She turned towards the entrance. Her feet were already moving before she could process it.
I have to. I told him I'd be here.
Vera was on her in a flash, grabbing her arm and yanking her back. Stop, Vera said sharply. Think!
Let me go. He said he'd meet me here. I told him 2 days ago before the lines went down. He promised.
Vera's grip tightened. Her eyes were locked onto hers. Harper, that is not your grandfather. Harper's mouth moved, but no sound came out. Think, Harper. You know the lore. What else can a Wendigo do? Harper's breath caught. The blood drained from her face. She swallowed, voice barely above a whisper.
It can mimic voices.
Vera nodded once. Exactly. Then, click. The sound of the heavy latch on the storage door shifted. Both women turned. Harper's face drained to ash. She stepped back without realizing it, eyes wide. Vera stepped in front of her, gun half raised, breath steady but low. The door creaked open, and it was there. It didn't charge in, it didn't growl, it simply stepped into view. It was tall, too tall. Its head scraped just beneath the steel doorframe, limbs impossibly thin, bent wrong at the joints, stretching as if they'd been dislocated and reset too many times. Its skin was a grayish malted white, papery, pulled tight over bones, the color of blizzard-bitten flesh. Ribs jutted out like broken latticework. The arms hung low, fingers long and branched thin, ended in hook claws that twitched as it moved. Its face was a nightmare stretched over a skull. No lips, just teeth that looked jagged and wet, too many and all too long. Eyes of what passed for them were deep, sunken sockets, glowing, faintly amber like dying embers. And then when it moved its head, it was silent. It leaned forward slightly. And then, in her grandfather's voice, it said,
Harper, come here.
Harper let out a sob, hand clamping over her mouth. Vera didn't move, but gun still raised, and bang, bang. The gunshots cracked through the bunker like thunder, echoing off the steel walls. The Wendigo jerked as the bullets hit, one in the shoulder, one in the chest, but it didn't fall. It just turned its head slowly. Mouth stretched into something that might have been a grin if it had lips. Shit, Vera hissed, stepping back. She already knew bullets wouldn't kill it. All she'd done was pissed it off. Her bag with the real weapons, silver, iron, salt, was just a few feet away, too far now. The Wendigo stepped forward. Then, a flare shrieked past Vera's shoulder. It hit the creature in his chest and exploded into burning red light, fire and smoke and heat. The Wendigo screamed, a sound like breaking glass in a dying wind, and stumbled back, retreating into the doorway. Harper stood across the room, the empty flare gun clutched in her hands. Her face was pale, but set in fury. It fled. Vera bolted for the door, slammed it shut, and threw the heavy latch across it. It wouldn't hold, and she knew that, but it bought some time. She turned to Harper, who was still panting, hands shaking.
What the hell was that?
The thing that's not real. Harper didn't laugh. Vera's smile faded. It'll be back. And it was. They could already hear it, circling the bunker, footfalls crunching in the snow. Slow and patient. It was waiting. The sun was dropping behind the ridge. When darkness came, it would make its move. Vera crouched beside Harper, speaking lowly. We need a plan. And the plan was simple, stupid, dangerous, and barely a step ahead of suicidal. Harper would be bait. Vera hated it, but it was the only way to get that thing close enough to kill it. She gave Harper a small silver rosary from her pack, blessed, pure silver, burning cold to the touch. Press it to its face, Vera said, no hesitation, and when it drops you, don't move, play dead. Harper swallowed, still shaken.
What if it doesn't drop me?
Vera met her eyes. Oh, it will. Dusk had fallen. The sky was a bruised gray and the snow had gone silent. The kind of silence you only hear before something bad happens. Harper stepped outside. The cold slapped her instantly. Her boots crunched softly as she stood in the clearing just beyond the bunker's door. Every breath fogged out in front of her. Her body screamed to run. Then she heard it.
Harper. Harper, it's me.
Her grandfather's voice, like a recording, slowed just enough to turn uncanny. She froze, just like she'd planned. The Wendigo emerged from the tree line, its movements very slow and precise. It knew she wasn't going anywhere. It stood taller than before, maybe the posture, maybe her fear, but Harper swore it stretched towards the sky. Its chest rose and fell like empty bellows. The flare burn still smoldered on its skin, blackened and blistered, flesh peeling away. Its eyes flickered like coal. It reached her. The claws wrapped around her waist with sickening cold, lifting her off the ground like a doll. She wanted to scream. God, she wanted to scream, but she held it in. The stench of rot and burned meat filled her nose. The Wendigo leaned closer. She struck, and with a snarl, Harper shoved the silver rosary against the side of its face. The reaction was instant. The Wendigo screamed, a high, shrieking, unnatural sound that rattled the trees. Smoke hissed from its skin. It flung Harper across the clearing like a rag doll. She slammed into the snow and felt something pop into her shoulder, but the cold softened the blow. And then Vera appeared from behind. Flare gun raised, she fired. The light blazed into the Wendigo's back, igniting in a violent burst of red. Vera dropped the flare gun and drew the dagger, a rough forged iron blackened from years of sharpening, wrapped in worn leather, handmade for a single purpose. The flare burned where it lodged into the creature's back. The Wendigo jerked violently, clawing desperately at the light, shrieking as fear finally showed in its eyes. Fear of the fire. Vera didn't hesitate. She knew this was her chance. You hungry, huh? She muttered. Come get fed. It lunged. She dodged just wide enough, the claws missing her by inches, and drove forward with everything she had, plunging the iron dagger straight into its heart. The dagger pierced through cartilage, bone, and sinew. A spray of black blood hissed out into the snow, sizzling. The Wendigo screeched, arms thrashing, claws slashed in the air, then staggering backwards. It dropped to its knees, twitched, then crumbled to the ground, body contorting like a tree folding inward, bones cracking, limbs drawing in. Then it was still. The snow began to fall again. Vera stumbled to Harper, who was sitting up, cradling her shoulder. Hey, you alive? Vera asked, breathing hard.
Barely. Did we kill it?
For now. Harper looked at the black and twisted shape in the snow. They stared at the corpse while the forest was quiet again. They burned the body. Vera didn't hesitate. She knew the rules. You don't just kill a Wendigo and walk away. You purify it, cleanse the corrupted soul before it slithers into something else, someone else. The snow caught flame slowly. The snow curled upward like the spirit being drawn away, piece by piece. Afterwards, they fashioned a makeshift sling for Harper's arm using rope and thermal padding. It wasn't perfect, but it held. They loaded up the supplies, started the snowmobile, and began to trek back towards the hotel. The ride was silent. Not the tense kind of silence, just the quiet of exhaustion, survival, and a shared understanding between two people who had just seen something they've never been able to explain. When they finally pulled into the hotel parking lot, the guests came pouring out to greet them. Applause, relief, anxious, questions. Harper stuck to the story. Yeah, Harper and her clumsiness fell off the snowmobile, Vera added. Shoulder took the brunt of it. No one questioned it. Later, as Harper sat by the fireplace and sighed with her arm bound tight and a blanket over her shoulder, she turned to Vera.
Thank you.
Vera, sipping from a steaming mug of black coffee, gave a tired smile. Wasn't the relaxation I was hoping for, but I'm glad I was here. Maybe I was meant to be here. 2 days later, the storm passed, trucks arrived to clear the roads, and long-forgotten feelings of movement returned. Guests began checking out, eager to get home, eager to leave whatever strange weight the storm had brought with it. Vera packed up, checked out, and said her goodbyes. As always, she kept it simple, a clean break. She started her truck, tires crunching over freshly salted asphalt, and made her way down the cleared mountain road. Snow-covered pines blurred past. She didn't know where she was going next, but she would know when she got there. Back at the hotel, Harper stood behind the front desk going through the final checkout list. Her eyes skimmed each name, each room. Then she paused. Room 208. The man whose wife had gone missing, Mr. Lewis. He hadn't checked out, hadn't even come down for breakfast. No one had seen him since the storm began. Most had just assumed he was grieving in his room, but something about it nagged at her. Harper took the master key, climbed the stairs, and she knocked.
Mr. Lewis? It's Harper. Just checking in.
No answer. She unlocked the door. The room was empty, but all of his things were still there. His bag, his coat, even his wallet on the nightstand, as if he stepped out for a minute, or going looking for someone. Harper stood there for a long while, then quietly closed the door. She walked back down to the front desk and picked up the phone and dialed the local police. 911 operator, what's your emergency?
Hi. Yeah, I think we may have another missing person.
She glanced out the window towards the woods.
This week just keeps getting longer.
Miles away, Vera drove steady, the mountain curves winding down into flat terrain. She was letting herself breathe again, planning maybe a cabin somewhere warmer where the snow didn't feel like a tomb. She passed a clearing, a frozen lake half covered in untouched snow. There, nearly swallowed up by the distance, just out of view of Vera, stood a figure. It was shaped like a woman, but the limbs hung too loose, the spine too bent. Her belly was swollen and stretched unnaturally taut, like something inside had overgrown. Her feet bare, except for a man's boot, sunken half into the ice. In one of her hands, a severed hand, and on the cold, dead fingers, a wedding band. This story was written and edited by N. Varro, narrated by D. Madison with voice support from Dana Diaz. Tales Podcast now has a YouTube page where I'll be uploading new episodes as well as previously released stories. I've also started sharing short folklore clips and what not to do content on TikTok and Instagram that ties into the stories being released. So be sure to head over and check those out. And while you're there, don't forget to like and follow and support both the podcast and the artists behind it. You can find all of our social media links in the listener's note. Thank you for listening, and remember, not every story stays where you leave it.